You knew that would be another message, didn't you? Well, here we are at part B. When pushed to the brink, push back. When pushed to the brink, push back. And of course, again, this is part B. Suicide is not painless. This is my take. So don't hate. That's our series. Suicide is not painless. Greetings and welcome to another episode of My Take on this beautiful Thursday, September the 2nd, 2021. And always, my hope in this series in particular is to raise awareness of emotional and mental illnesses and suicide. Last week, we began the first of what we thought would be three-part series on suicide is not painless. And I talked about when pushed to the brink, push back. When pushed to the brink, push back. And of course, our goal is through awareness and through education and encouragement. Our goal is to help people understand, to help ourselves understand, to help others understand the value of life and that there are much better alternatives to suicide. If you are or think you're suffering from depression or some other mental illness and feel that you can no longer deal with life, that you can no longer handle your circumstances or no longer handle life, I want to encourage you, my friend, to please seek professional counseling. Please seek medical and mental treatment immediately. You don't have to deal with this by yourself. And sometimes we do need help. And thankfully, help is available. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. If you have been diagnosed with or if you feel that you have some mental and emotional challenge that you're having to deal with and having to live through, there's nothing to be ashamed of. No matter what your situation may be right now, I believe that if you choose to live, that if you choose life, it will be a decision that you will later applaud yourself for. And I really believe that you'll be glad about it. You know, it may not be you. Maybe there's someone that you suspect as being suicidal. Maybe they've indicated that. And please, if you're not a trained counselor or a professional in these kinds of matters, don't attempt to help them alone. Don't do it by yourself. By all means, take immediate action if necessary, especially in getting that person or persons to someone or putting them in contact with someone who might be better equipped or better trained to help them. You know, as we sometimes say, if we err at all, let it be on the side of caution. And let me say to you, my friend, take seriously even as much as a glimpse of someone crying out or reaching out in a state of depression or in a state of depression or desperation, I should say, who may be trying to draw attention to what they may be thinking or feeling. Any indication or any statement that a person may be thinking or hurting, thinking of hurting themselves or hurting others, these are thoughts that should be taken seriously. These are expressions that should be taken seriously. And there are studies and there's data that suggests that there are certain persons and certain groups of people who are more likely to contemplate suicide than there are others. And these are thoughts that I believe that anybody can have. I mean, any kind of thought can come to your mind. So don't worry about that. Don't think that you're by yourself because you had this type of thought. And you know, in spite of the fact that they believe they have identified, again, certain groups of people, certain persons in particular circumstances or situations that is believed to be more likely to have those suicidal thoughts. It could happen to any of us. I mean, those thoughts can come to any of our minds. Are you hearing me? So I believe that we must be aware that when we encounter persons who are having those kind of thoughts, or if it's us who are having those kind of thoughts, that we will seek help immediately. But we also have to be aware of the fact that there are people who cry wolf, who use this thought and use this idea of suicide to garner sympathy or to get themselves out of some trouble that they've gotten themselves in. And, you know, maybe they've done something wrong, made a poor choice, used bad judgment. And so maybe they're trying to excuse that and get out of it by claiming that they're having suicidal thoughts, that I'm thinking about killing myself and all of that, you know, because they are trying to, again, get sympathy. and they're just crying wolf. But even in spite of that, my friend, even in light of that, we still have to take it seriously. They may be trying to deceive us. They may be not telling us the whole truth, but we still have to take it seriously because we don't know. We don't know the mind of another person. As a matter of fact, we don't even know our own mind. We don't even know what we are capable of doing or what we are subject to do. Are you hearing me? So there are times that people may be indeed trying to get sympathy or excuse something, but we still have to take it seriously, even if they're crying wolf. Okay? All right. Now, one of the things that I believe that's going to be helpful to us is that, well, we need to study and seek knowledge of not only this subject, but other subjects that that do affect our lives and that can negatively and adversely affect our lives. So we want to learn about these things. We want to dig into it, not only so that it can help us, but so that it can put us in a position to be able to better recognize these thoughts, like suicidal thoughts, that we'll be able to recognize those in other people as well as ourselves, and that we'll be in a better position to help them because we have the knowledge to do that, okay? Because we have learned, we have gained some knowledge of it, and while we may not know everything, it's certainly good to know something. And in these kinds of situations, I want to know as much as possible. Whether I'm thinking it's going to affect me or whether it's affecting someone else, I want to know as much as possible because I want to be able to do as much as I can to help in that situation. Whether, again, I'm helping myself or whether I'm helping someone else. All right? So I want to encourage you to study, to research this whole thing about suicide and what drives people, what causes people to consider suicide, what makes people attempt suicide. Okay, so we want to be able to help people when they feel like all is lost. And we want to be able to help ourselves when we feel hopeless and helpless and feel that that life is not worth living. You know, we want to be able to help anybody, anyone who may be considering harming themselves or thinking about harming someone else. Let me tell you something, my friend. Feelings, often we dismiss feelings and thoughts, but feelings and thoughts are real. Pain and suffering are real. Hopelessness and fear and helplessness are very real and are subject to push anyone over the edge. So let us all be warned and beware. All right? You know, I talked during the introduction about the MASH movie and the theme song, which is entitled Suicide is Painless. No. I categorically and vehemently disagree with that assessment or with that suggestion that suicide is painless. No, my friend. You know, and the director of the movie did say that he wanted the theme song to be named that suicide is painless. He wanted the theme song to be named that, and that he wanted the song to be the stupidest song ever. To which I say, job well done. Job well done. I think it is the stupidest song that I ever heard. All right? But suicide is absolutely not painless. It's very painful. It's painful to all that is involved. It is destructive to the very fabric of our society. Suicide is destructive. It's deadly. Well, obviously it's deadly. You know, and the notion that death by any means and by whatever means, that the idea that death is not painless, let alone suicide, that's a ridiculous idea. There's no such thing as it won't hurt anyone. There's no such thing, my friend, as I won't feel anything. As a matter of fact, when it comes to suicide, there's evidence that there are times that people commit suicide with the sole purpose of hurting, with the sole purpose of causing disruption in life. There are people who commit suicide out of spite and vengeance. There are those who commit suicide and thinking that they're punishing themselves because they feel like they've done something that's unforgivable. They cannot forgive themselves. And so they feel like, well, you know, this is the only way I can find to punish myself. And then there are people that commit suicide just to hurt others because they feel like maybe someone has hurt them. And maybe that's a way of getting back at them. And so there are people who commit suicide for that sole purpose of hurting, because it is painful. It does hurt. You know, I talked a little bit about this last week, that there are those that sometimes stage suicide for maximum shock, maximum pain. There are people who do that. I think it's very selfish. I think it's very self-centered. I think there's something wrong with that. I do. I think there's something wrong with that. But just be aware that it happens. So it does happen. So there's no such thing as suicide is painless. No, it is very painful. It's very unfortunate that a person can, and I don't understand it, can find themselves at a point in their life with the mindset to harm self or to harm others, and yet cannot find the courage to save themselves. I don't understand that. I don't get it. You know, I don't understand why is it that some people don't see what we see, that we see the value of life and the value in life. And I'm glad about that. But there are those that something has driven them to that point. You know, and I don't get it. I don't understand. How is it that we can find the courage and the nerves to harm ourselves, and yet can't seem to find the courage or the nerves or the wherewithal to battle through the challenges of life and face life and live? What's up with that? That's just one of the many mysteries of humanity. You know, among the many causes of suicide, one is pressure. And I want to focus on that today. Pressure. Pressures can be overbearing, but that's what it is. Pressure is overwhelming. Pressure that gives us that sense of hopelessness and that sense of helplessness. Pressure that can easily lead to depression, could easily lead to some other emotional and mental illness or condition, and not checked and not brought under control could possibly eventually lead to death, could lead to suicide. And you know, there are a number of ways that we describe it. You know, my back is against the wall. I'm behind the 8 ball. I'm in over my head. I'm between a rock and a hard place. I'm at my wit's end, you know, among the many ways that we describe it. They all describe, listen, they all mean the same thing. They all describe that suffocating sensation of enormous pressure being applied to our lives in one way or another. It could be internal, it could be external. In other words, it could come from within, it could come from without. So I thought I might take a few minutes to elaborate on when pushed to the brink, push back, and talk about some of those things or some of the ways in which we can be pushed to the brink, some of the ways in which we can be pushed to our perceived limit. You know, what's doing it to us? And while we're going to focus on pressure, I believe that a big part of that equation is panic. Yeah, panic. I believe that's a big part of it, is when we panic. Those circumstances, you know, when we find ourselves in the world, feel like the world is closing in on us, the world come crashing down on us, and we cannot catch our breath, not knowing how to handle it. What shall I do? Not knowing how to deal with that situation. Panic. We can panic sometimes. Do something that we will later regret, or do something that we may not even live to regret. Panic. I believe that's a big part of it. I believe that's a big part of it. There's almost always some kind of pressure weighing heavily on us. Always. I mean, it's life. And if we don't push back, they may push us right off the scene. May push us not only to the brink, but could push us over the brink. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Let me give you an example. If someone was holding our head underwater and we couldn't breathe underwater, it is very unlikely that we would quietly take it and surrender to that pressure. You know, it's unlikely that we're just going to let them do it, you know, while all that pressure is being imposed upon us. Instinct, the will to live, won't allow us to take it lying down, so to speak. In almost every case, we're going to fight and struggle and push back with all our might until we're free of the water and can breathe again. We're not going to let anybody hold us underwater. We don't conclude that we will never make it, that we will never break free. We don't accept the idea, the thought that we will never live again, no matter how dark it gets or how difficult it may be, my friend. We fight against it. We push back. We fight back. We struggle with every ounce of energy and power that we can muster to free ourselves so that we can breathe again. We may give out, but it's almost never a case where we're going to give up. And I believe that we should respond to the challenges of life, the failures of life, with that same tenacity, that same determination, that same will to live as if our head was underwater and we were struggling to breathe. There's something about life and something about living that drives us to adjust, to adapt, and to overcome. It's within us to push back, to push against death, to strive for life. It's in us. No matter how much someone may try to die, most of us really want to live. Most of us really want to live. And again, I said, pressure may be applied internally. It may be applied externally. No matter which way it comes, we have to deal with it. In other words, it could be something that, this internal pressure, something that we placed ourselves in when we place ourselves in a bad situation or in a painful situation. It could be nobody's fault but our own. It could be that we are where we are, dealing with whatever we may be dealing with, whatever is hurting us, whatever is causing pain, because of our own poor judgment, because of our own bad choices, because of our own neglect, our own actions in life. And even though it's our failures, and it may be our own fault, that doesn't make it any less painful. It doesn't make it any easier to deal with, just because it's our fault, so to speak, because we brought it upon ourselves. And then there are the many contributing factors of what I call external pressure, pressure coming from another source or coming from without, and sometimes even finding ourselves at the mercy of circumstances beyond our control. And I believe that a big step in the right direction to protect ourselves and others would be to take the attitude and the necessary actions to make sure it's not me. What do I mean by that? That it's not me. In other words, I'm saying to us is that let us not bring it upon ourselves. Let us not put ourselves in that position. Let us determine right now in our hearts and in our spirit that it's not going to be me. I will not hurt myself. It's not going to be me. I will not destroy myself. It's not going to be me. I am not going to listen. As much as I can control, it won't be me that puts my back against the wall. It won't be me that places me between a rock and a hard place. It will not be me that finds myself, that causes me to find myself at my wit's end. It is not going to be me. I will do all I can to prevent me from bringing pain and suffering upon myself. Say that it's not going to be me. Let's keep ourselves out of the pressure cooker. Let's keep ourselves out of that pressure. Do all we can. The pressure is coming, if not from within, it's coming from without. But let us control as much of it as we can. Let us prevent as much of it as we can. Let's not find ourselves under the bed or under the table suffering because of our own choices and our own actions, okay? So let's just say, not me. It is not going to be me. I am not going to do this to myself. All right? And I have long said the best way to get out of a situation is to stay out of that situation. Now, that's the best way. All right? Now, we may not always do it that way, but that is the best way. The best way to get out is to stay out. Stay out of that situation. Don't bring it upon yourself. But I recognize that can be easier said than done. But it can be done. Hear me. It can be done. Perhaps not every time, but at least the majority of the time, it can be done. Our best protection against pressure, listen to me, people. Our best protection against pressure, please hear me, is to properly manage our life, to properly manage our relationships, to properly manage our finances, to properly manage our health. And those are just a few, but I believe those are the primary ones. If we could manage to manage those, I think we'll be well on our way to great success. That's what gets us. That's what has gotten us. That's what puts us between a rock and a hard place. When we don't manage our life properly, when we don't manage our finances properly, when we don't manage our relationships properly, when we don't manage our health properly. Look at it, think about it. Those are the main problems that we have in life. Those are the primary issues that place us between a rock and a hard place, behind the 8 ball. There are others, but those are the main ones. I believe they are, at least anyway. And if we can manage, again, to manage, listen, to manage our life, to manage our relationships, to manage our finances, to manage our health, I think we're going to be good. I think we'll be in great shape. So let's, best way to get out of it is to stay out of it. And we stay out of it by managing our life properly. I believe that's a good thing. I believe it will. You know, it would help us to be patient. It would help for us to make good decisions and to do those things that promote health, that promote wellness and wholeness. And even if we don't do much to help ourselves, at least let's not do anything to hurt ourselves. Okay? Even if we don't add anything, let's not take anything away. Are you hearing me? All right? But what if the pressure comes from without? What if it comes from some external source? What if there are circumstances? What if there are attacks that are beyond our control? What chance do we have of protecting ourselves then? We have as good a chance as any. Yeah, we do. It's just a matter, I believe, of putting the fight and the bite back in the game. Yeah, factor in, put it back in there. The fight and the bite. It's a matter, I believe, of making up our mind that we will overcome. We will survive, and we refuse to surrender to our circumstances. We refuse to surrender to death. I understand, my friend, pain is real. And the reality is that sometimes it's preventable. I hope that most of the time it is, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes we have to endure. Sometimes until we can escape it, we just have to endure it. Endure until we can get to a better place in life. Pressure, listen to me. Pressure can create darkness. Darkness can create depression. Depression can lead to death. Remember that great band of the 70s, War, who sang that song, Slipping into Darkness? Yeah. Ruptured or broken relationships can put us in a dark place. Sickness or death of a loved one can push us into a dark place. Our own sickness, our own disease can cause us to slip into darkness. Financial failures and difficulties can push us to the brink. Business failures, personal failures, career or educational failures can push us to the brink. Social rejection, physical, sexual, and emotional abuse can push us to the brink. Shame and embarrassment can push us to the brink. Confusion about our sexual orientation and all that surrounds that question can cause us to slip into darkness. Alcohol and substance abuse, drug abuse, and all the destruction that is associated with it can push us to the brink. Peer pressure, peer rejection can push us over the top. Please hear me, my friend. Please hear me. That pressure is something else. And when we don't, it's not always our fault, but we have to manage our lives well. I want you to know something about depression and darkness. That pressure can get us to a place sometimes where we just surrender to it. We give in, we give up. And slowly and methodically, that pressure can suck us under like quicksand, can drain the very energy out of us, can drain the very joy. That's long gone joy. It could drain the very life out of us. It can suck us under. So I want to give you just a few things real quick that I believe would be helpful to us. And the first one I want to say to us is educate ourselves and educate one another. We perish for lack of knowledge. Educate self. In other words, let us learn ourselves and let us teach others. Let us learn for ourselves and let us teach others. Educate ourselves. We perish for lack of knowledge, my friend. Let us educate ourselves. Seek the knowledge. Do the research. Learn. Hunger and thirst for knowledge. And make your mind up. So I am going to learn. I'm not going to be ignorant. I'm not going to be unlearned. Let's educate ourselves and educate one another. All right. I mean, soak up all the education you can. Do all you can to learn and to gain knowledge of the various issues and subjects that affect our lives and that oftentimes negatively impact our lives or adversely affect our lives. Let's learn, but let's get some knowledge so we can help ourselves and so we can help others. So that's the first thing: educate ourselves and educate others. Then, secondly, I would say, encourage ourselves and encourage one another. Encourage ourselves. Don't give up. Don't give in. Let's encourage ourselves and encourage one another. Encouragement will take us a long way. Oh man, it'll take us a long way. And there are times that, listen, sometimes there are people around you that they won't encourage you, but encourage yourself. Encourage yourself. You know what I'm about to say, and you know it very well. I will encourage myself. David said in the Lord, I will encourage myself. All right? And I don't usually go to the Bible on my take. But I do want you to know that I'll probably close out this series. I don't know what part it'll be by then, maybe part 6 by then. But I will close it out talking about suicide from a biblical perspective. Okay, so we'll get to that. Be patient, my friend. Sometimes, and I know this may sound strange coming from a preacher, sometimes I don't want to preach to people. I just want to talk. I just want to have a conversation. I just want us to discuss things. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's a good thing. All right? But encourage yourself and encourage one another. And sometimes I do it by talking to myself. Yes, you heard me right. I talk to myself. I do. I talk to myself. And surprisingly, there are times that I listen to myself. I mean, you'll be surprised some of the stuff I've talked myself out of. I mean, sometimes the things that I've talked myself through. There are times I have to talk to myself. No, I'm not crazy. I'm known as the crazy guy, but I got good sense. But I do talk to myself. There are times I have to snatch myself up by the collar and say, man, shake it off. Wake up. Come out of it. Snap out of it. I have to encourage myself. Oh, man. I'm grateful for that. Listen, encourage yourself and encourage one another. All right? Fight, fight, fight. Don't give up. And don't give in. All right, so educate ourselves and educate others. Encourage ourselves and encourage others. And then I want to say to us, not only educate ourselves and not only encourage ourselves, but let us learn to endure. I mentioned that earlier. Let us learn to endure. Let us learn to endure. Because there are times that we may have to stay in that situation. I'm going to talk a minute about escaping and getting out early, but there are times that we're just sort of stuck there, my friend. And we have to endure it. We have to take it. I talked a little bit about that last week. We have to endure it. So I want to encourage you to not only educate yourself and educate others, encourage yourself, encourage others, but endure it. While you're there, endure it. Don't get comfortable there, but endure it. All right? And then lastly, I want to say to us is escape every dark place immediately. Don't linger in darkness. And I mean literally get out of dark places. Get out of dark places. Don't let that depression suck you under. Don't feed into depression. Don't feed into discouragement. Get out of that dark place in your life and get out as soon as possible. Get out. Flee the wrath to come, so to speak. Get out of that dark place. Get up. Get out of that bed or from under the bed, wherever you are. Turn the lights on. Turn the lights on. Open the blinds. Open the curtains. Open the windows and let some fresh air in. Get out of that dark place in your life. No pity parties allowed. Stop your whining. Get up and get going. No, we are not going to support your pity party. We are not. No, you have an opportunity to live. Live. Get out of that dark place. Turn off that sad elevator music. Turn off the blues. Turn off all those sad songs and put on some dancing music. Better still, put on some disco music. Yeah, turn on your twirling disco light and light up the place. No pity party, but you can party. Yeah, you can party, my friend. No pity parties, though. but you can party. Escape that dark place and do it immediately. Get out of there, my friend. Because that darkness can suck you under. It can draw you in. It can. Square up your shoulders. Poke out your chest. Come on. Come on, get up from there. Hold your head up high. Be grateful that you have life. Yeah. Fight your way back to the top. Come out of the dark places. Yeah. Turn on as much light as possible. Don't even worry about the power bill. Let the light within you shine. Let the sun shine. Even get out of the house. Go somewhere. Do something. Are you hearing me, my friend? Yeah. You can do better. Man, I love life. I love life. Grab life by the horns and live it to the max. Now that's my take. What do you have to say? Sound off. Life is good.